All right. You guys know how we operate the roundtables. If there's anything you want to talk about, to raise your hand, suggest the topic, and we'll get it.
That was fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious if Kiefer has had any time to work on the numbers and has anything new.
I did work on the numbers, but because the numbers don't matter unless the wax team agrees to the numbers, I won't share them because it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So unless the wax team says this is the way we go, there's not really anything to share.
But you can share your suggestion to them, I guess, even though we have the disclaimer that it might not lead to anything, or...
I can share my suggestion. The suggestion is to cap the inflation at 2%. So...
Oh, we're losing you.
Yeah, AI taking him out as well.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, now I kicked out. I left.
Yeah. Oh, you're back.
Fuck?
Oh, his problem again.
Oh, now I'm back again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Google has issues.
We should all say Gemini is awesome. We love it. It will save our world.
That's it. That's it. I don't know what's going on.
Be grateful. Say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemini.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's working now. Yeah. So my suggestion is to cap the inflation at 2%. No, the inflation is capped at 2%. Cap the parachute at 2%. Reduce the standby seats. So the actual used inflation would scale from 1.2% to 2%. And if the price of wax goes up, we would issue less parachute. This would reduce the inflation overall for the chain. And this would result in a minimum pay of 2.7K if we go down to 1 cent, I guess. In the worst case scenario.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion, but as you said, we don't know if that will happen or something else will happen. Do you have any sentiment from them?
I keep losing internet access for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on.
Someone cutting cables again?
Cyberbully.
Not sure.
Yeah, the connection is bad today. That's very unusual. Is everyone else fine and not lagging out?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't see any other problem.
Internet connection. My internet connection is cutting out constantly. I don't know what's going on. I'm checking on my router now.
There has been multiple sabotages on underwater cables in the last year, so maybe another one. And your traffic is being routed there.
But yeah, while we are waiting for Kiefer, the exact details are uncertain yet. But the main goal of this change is to reduce the spending on the guild roster so that it fits within the inflation parameters.
The change that you guys are suggesting, does that keep the rest of the system the same as far as, because I know you guys mentioned possibly like removing products altogether or whatever?
Yeah, that's a big point for debate, and that's even more uncertain than the details about the parachute. But
so my proposal is cut the cut infrastructure in terms of we don't need that need to spend 30K on Hyperion every month across 30 guilds. So that's one thing. We don't need as many full Hyperions, and we don't need as many atomic assets APIs and everything. So we cut on spending. We adjust the parachute to make it sustainable just on the inflation we currently have. So that would be 2%. That would bring the pay down significantly as we go down, but that was had always had to happen. So this would leave us in the range of 2.7 to 6K. 2.7 would approximately be the pay if the price of wax drops to 1 cent. Because everything else is essentially not really sustainable. This would come along with reducing the overall amount of standby seats. So my proposal is go down to something in the range of 4 to 6 paid standbys, and then have runner-up positions. Runner-up positions would be guilds that don't receive parachute, receive regular or half of regular standby pay, and are not don't have as hard of requirements. So it's essentially, if you want to start your guild, you can start as runner-up, and then just the best guilds that don't make it into paid standby can start out as runner-up just to cover basic infrastructure. So we have the essential, is the chain still secure with at least 6 working producers at any time outside of top 21.
Cool. What's the sentiment that you get from them on this? Is it hard to tell, or?
It's hard to tell at this point, yes. Well, it's still up to debate. We have a next call tomorrow, and then we'll see. The plan is to come to an agreement and a conclusion until the end of the month, and then present everything to the guilds. And I don't know if the work stream then wants to collect feedback from the guilds, or if they want to present it with a final conclusion based on our feedback and their approach. Yeah.
A
What
longer. Again, please. What?
I was going to say that when you said 2.7K at 1 cent scaling to 6K, what wax price is 6K based on?
6K would be the current wax price. So at current wax price, the pay would be 5.7K based on my numbers, approximately. So given that we currently, that we dropped hard down to 2.6 cents right now.
There we need some feedback and your input on what is most important for us to secure the network, have proper working APIs that dApps can use, and what it really comes down to, what is the most important on the tech ops side. A little bit of redefining the criteria. Block production, failovers, APIs, which kind of APIs, which services like the Delphi Oracle, which we have in the tech ops criteria, backups, how are we going to handle this?
Yeah. Overall, we would reduce the tech requirements, and we would also adjust how we evaluate the guild contributions in my proposal. So we would move from legacy scores. Right now we have a lot of scores in old products that don't require any maintenance, to only actually give out guild points for stuff that has been worked on within the last 2 months. So that we honor the guilds that are actively contributing and don't sit on a lot of stuff that is not actually actively being worked on.
Yeah. There remains a question to be debated. We have a whole bunch of awesome ecosystem critical products and components on Wax, which we want to keep, which we want to see being developed. However, if it's in if it's an RFP system, all labs will cover that. Unsure. What I'd like to see here personally is we have something like an ecosystem program or ecosystem fund, and we can transition most of the contributions sheet into such a novel system, which is very similar to a WAX Labs, but that still needs a lot of debate.
Yeah, that would be the other approach, that the guild funding is only essentially for maintenance, and everything the guild wants to build fresh or new should be funded through WAX Labs instead of guild rewards, because the guild rewards are too low to actually fund anything aside of infrastructure and having somebody that maintains the infrastructure.
Yeah, so it will be hard to fund new projects on WAX with such a budget. We're all aware of it. So that's why we are strongly advocating, or will advocate, for an RFP-like system to support the ecosystem too. Or that's what I'd like to see the most.
So when you say there's debate, are you debating with the WAX team, or is the WAX team debating amongst themselves and you provided some suggestion?
We are also internally debating, I would say, but
yeah, we the IGs are debating internally, the WAX team is debating internally, and we are debating with the WAX team. So the OIG has one proposal draft, the WAX team has one proposal draft, and then we see where we can come together to work out a solution that we think works for everybody. But in the end, ultimately, it's the WAX team that decides what's going to happen.
And that decision is earmarked to be final at the end of this month?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's the current goal. I hope, and I think we should be able to work that out by then. And I think we have to, because the price is tanking, the entire markets are tanking, and if we don't recover, the problem is we're spending a lot of funds right now from savings, and this will hurt us in the long term. And at some point, we're simply not sustainable anymore if we spend, because we just run out of the savings.
Once the decision's made at the end of the month, let's say, has the discussion been on phasing it in over a few months, or would it be April?
The plan right now is to phase it in. So make a plan and then give everybody 3 to 6 months to adjust, depending on the market conditions.
Okay.
So currently we have 80 million WAX left in liquid funds in EOZO savings. And last week, I think we spent 2.5 million WAX, 2.1 million WAX on parachute, standby pay, and IG pay. Current weekly inflow is, wait a second. $300 million point. Oh. Okay. 0.02% divided by 45. So inflow right now is 1.6 million WAX per week coming in from inflation, and that is including everything that is supposed to be going into WAX Labs. So we're having a net loss right now of, at 3 cents, we had a net loss of 500k WAX. And this is also taking out funds from savings that are supposed to cover Wax Lab stuff, like funding other projects that are currently on, like Wax Block. The Wax Block Explorer is being paid from that, and other stuff is paid from that too. So that's why we need to adjust the system rather sooner than later, because if we go down to 1 cent at the current curve rate, we would probably spend like 4 million, I think, at 1 cent at the current curve. And this would mean we only had like 20 weeks, like 6 months until we, at most, until we run out of funds. And then we have nothing left in savings anymore at all. So that's why this needs to be adjusted rather sooner than later. So my plan originally, when I introduced the parachute, the plan was to adjust the curve once we hit 4 cents. That was the original plan. Because since we introduced it, a lot of things have changed, and we have a lot more guilds. When we started with a parachute, we had like, I think we had 10 standby guilds that were paid. And with the scaling inflation, not even half of them were in the upper range of payment. And now we have, I think, 15 standby guilds, and quite a few of them are getting 80% of the standby pay plus parachute. So we're just overspending at this point. And it doesn't help anyone if we end up with no savings anymore or aren't able to pay anyone. So the goal is to secure the pay for at least the top 21 at a level where they at least can cover the infrastructure and hopefully some of the labor cost in the worst case scenario.
Then also looking to evolve the system into more kind of an RFP system, which will hopefully help funding great initiatives in the network.
I think even though we have wasted a lot of funds on quite a bit of stuff, a lot of good has come out of the whole guild system. We have a lot of products that I think would not have happened without the guild funding, because I don't think everybody is going through the hassle for everything they want to do or consider to do and go through and file a labs proposal. And some of the stuff that worked out good might not have been funded through Wax proposal. So I think having a hybrid of both guild funding and labs is a good thing.
Yeah.
And on the other end, shutting down guild contributions would also take away a lot of the, if the price goes up again, then guilds would also still probably not be required anymore to do guild contributions. So then we would be overspending on infrastructure again and not get anything back because guilds would not be required to develop anything. So that's why I think having a healthy dose of guild contributions factored into the whole scoring system and having a scoring system is still worth it. And also because I think it's near impossible to determine who is a viable producer just based on infrastructure, because everybody on Wax is essentially having the same infrastructure in terms of quality level. There's no real objective distinction between the individual nodes. Sure, there's some that are more reliable, some are a bit faster, some are a bit slower, and the only great factor is, to me, if they're in Hetzner or OVH or if they're bare metal at somebody's own place. And I always favor the nodes that are outside of OVH, outside of Hetzner, in the hopes that these are more reliable and we don't have these potential cluster fucks if something goes down.
I'll say that all nodes are the same until shit hits the fan.
Exactly.
Then there is a distinct list of those that know and care.
Exactly.
And those that have NFC.
And that's one of my core points is just by judging the node, you can't factor in the quality level of whoever maintains the node. If we just go by the node, we might lose the teams that actually know how to operate these nodes and that know what needs to be done if shit breaks. And I think this is something we need to be careful about and we need to prevent. And this, in my opinion, doesn't work if we have a system that is entirely relying on infrastructure evaluations with nothing else. So we need to find a way that factors this in the long term and preserves these guilds that have the knowledge to maintain the chain.
That's always been a talking point or a problem to solve, how to evaluate and judge that.
And we always try to factor that in. So some guilds got extra points for not that tangible contributions, like Sweden getting some extra points because you have the most reliable infrastructure. So you were the only guild that essentially didn't go down when the traffic through Alien World spiked in 2021. And you always have a reliable infrastructure because you have multiple charts in your system and you have the redundancy on everything and not just this one Hyperion node that can't take a load. And we have Michael who knows how to break shit and then fix it, hopefully.
Well, I'd argue, I mean, and it's not invalidating, but the reason Sweden's nodes didn't blow up is because they just throttled the hell out of it, which protect, you know, I mean, you got to. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I mean that it still was having to deal with the traffic and respond to it and do things differently, you know what I mean? So,
but it was also that they were able to handle more traffic overall because most of the guilds started to throttle the shit out of everything. But Sweden's nodes were among the few where the projects I worked with didn't collapse because they couldn't get anything through anymore.
Sweden's caching and rate limit policies were much more complex and much better.
Yeah,
whereas
exactly.
The rest of us were literally just having to say, we're chasing whack-a-mole there, but that doesn't mean that their nodes were able to handle more, although they probably were.
It was also the Hyperion indexers went down for a lot of teams at the same time back in, it was one moment where there was a big push. And I don't think everyone went down, but a lot of teams went down at the same time.
Almost everybody went down in terms of Hyperion, for example.
I think the bigger one's probably Atomic. That one's the one that at least Hyperion, if it breaks, it just skips it and says, oh well.
Atomic
was the one that, bam, and everybody ran into a brick wall. It just crushes. Anyway, it doesn't. I agree with y'all. I just give it a little bit of context. So.
It's important that we start also elaborating on qualitative and quantitative criteria for how to assess if someone is a good block producer and deserves to be voted into top 21. Objective criteria like we currently use inside the guidelines, and you will often find on all the validation tools we have, which in my opinion can't be fully automated. And of course, subjective criteria like deciding a vote order based on the contributions to the chain or whatever else there could be, which governance can help with, right? So we need to elaborate on this too in the coming weeks. And what will the requirements look like while we are transitioning and after that transition?
It's like real world IT departments. Everybody thinks that it's overspending and wasteful until something breaks. And then it's like, oh, we should have spent that money on security or a server upgrade or whatever. But it's always reactive because it's hard to see the value when things work. It's kind of like marketing. It's hard to put a value on it because it's so abstract, right? I mean, some things are just hard until.
Absolutely. That's where a case can be made for a little bit of subjective assessment.
And thanks, Jake. I did not see the PR yet, or putting the standby pay into the system contracts. I need to audit this because this can significantly change how everything works, because if this goes into effect, the parachute system would not work anymore, because right now the parachute system is bundled with the standby pay, and if the standby pay is handled by the system contracts, the parachute system would simply not work anymore.
Oppressive silence. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Okay, then let me open up another topic. We are looking into reducing the points for backups that can be received, capping them 1 point. Short term, we are looking into improving or changing the full Hyperion situation.
Those points are for the backups that you discussed before, or what's the... In what sense?
The snapshot backups for Hyperion, Elasticsearch, blocks log, state, etc. Because we now have too many. We had too little when only Ross and Weekend essentially provided them, and now we have too many, and it's way too many points that go into this. And this directly translates to pay. I think right now, if you have all the backups, you get 2.5 points or something, and 2.5 points. It's 2 points?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So that would translate to roughly 1.5k in extra 1.5k US dollar extra pay to standbys, just for providing the backups we don't need to this extent. So we have to cut down on that.
Any suggestions? What do we do here? Do we prevent any standby from hosting backups? Do we limit the backup points? Do we assign 3 guilds to provide the backups funded through Wax Labs? What's the most elegant solution here?
It's difficult when it's a change of how something has been.
But it hasn't been long. We added the points for backups only recently, like a couple months ago. So I think it's fine to reuse them again or take them away if we keep honoring the guilds that did provide them to begin with.
Yeah, but but the Rakuten asked how should it be handled moving forward. That's difficult.
Yeah, but we need to adjust it. So we're open to suggestions that you think are fair. The problem we ran into is everything we say we need, suddenly everyone provides it.
Everybody's chasing points, baby.
Exactly.
I didn't, for the sake of the argument. I just don't run Hyperion backups. I just have a bunch of servers in case they break. And Ross does a great job of that.
Yeah, he does. He does. And if we don't get feedback, we just have to decide on something. And then you can complain afterward.
Oh, there will be complaints.
Yeah, of course.
No doubts.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So any opinions? How would you handle that? The labs path, the limiting of the capping of score at 1, and still everyone can receive. Top 21 only can provide backups. Or do we assign like few points on the contributions on the contribution side and take it out of? I know it is already a contribution, right?
Yeah, it's a contribution.
Yeah. Do we limit it to, I don't know, the highest availability of backups?
Yeah. Just pick the most reliable ones.
Yeah.
And
It's
dial
a
it
little
down.
bit hard. I would assume that there's a handful that are actually being used.
Yeah, exactly. There's maybe a handful, but right now we have. It's a ton. It's like really a ton of. Let me check the list.
First, the downside is if we take it out of standbys, there will be a gap between top standbys and top 21, right?
Yeah.
Which you will not be able to fill. So we were anyways planning to take out the backups from the contributions and move them into the TechOps criteria. I think that was something we also discussed, but not sure if we decided on that finally, or we wanted to evaluate them whenever we do the TechOps reviews. What would you guys suggest?
I mean, the goal of backups is to have enough of them that are reliable and available so you can use them. The bandwidth needs to be there. That's the goal. The goal is not to have as many as possible.
Exactly, and we now have 15 guilds providing backups.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, that's too many. Like, I think we need like 2 to 3 per backup. So that's why we considered limiting the scores you can get for backups so that everybody just provides 1 or 2 backups and not everything.
Okay. I don't think we will come to a decision today on that, but a change there is needed and imminent.
Seems we have 8 to 10 backups of everything, and we need like maybe 3 of everything.
Yeah, here we would probably like to see an approach where we have significantly less backups, or the least amount of backups that we think is what we need. And then from there, you can always scale up, right? It takes time, it takes probably some funds too, but you can scale that up.
Yeah, we have right now, we have 13 ChainDB snapshots. How many do you guys think we need?
ChainDB, in my opinion, there should be one central like ChainDB snapshot, completely reliable.
So the main goal of doing that change is to, Ross, we didn't hear you. I saw your mouth moving if you spoke here. But the goal is to reduce how many standby guilds that get higher pay based on just providing backups that no one uses, right?
It's 2 things. It's on one end, cutting extra pay for standbys that provide backups nobody uses, and also cut cost on top 21 guilds that don't actually need the extra points for backups that are not needed. So right now everybody loses. We pay more to standbys that provide the service we don't need, and we put pressure on top 21 that have to spend funds on something nobody else needs without them getting extra pay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was disagreeing. One centralized database.
Right.
That's like the opposite of what you want. Ideally,
I hope you know I
you
was
would-
joking.
ideally, you would want everybody to have snapshots of their own info, and that way you can always mix and match and change and pull whatever. I get where you're coming from,
But we shouldn't
points
pay
don't-
1.5k to everybody just to have these.
Well, the 1.5k, it doesn't like directly the points don't necessarily directly translate, right?
They do. For standby, they
but-
do. For standbys, every point it translates to a dollar. They get
Okay.
extra in pay
Okay.
because that's how the
Okay.
standby pay works. You get paid based on your score.
Okay.
The more
But
scores
for the
you
top
have,
21, for the top 21,
it doesn't, and that's why this
doesn't.
is a
Okay.
bit of a problem because now the top 21s some of them feel pressure to provide these.
okay.
They have to pay for that, but they don't get extra pay.
Yeah, okay,
So-
I get it. So I didn't think about it from the standby perspective, but from my perspective, it isn't like if everybody had to lose 1 point. Then
And you're
what-
different because you provided these when there were no points for it.
Yeah, because we're going to provide them anyway. Maybe I shouldn't say that. we run it for mission critical stuff. So we want to. I use my snapshots, and if I have an issue and I want to get a specific block number, then I'll go and find it from somebody else. Go grab from Michael, grab from Sweden, grab from Nation. I just grab wherever, But the whole idea about it is you have your own because it's that it's correct, it's reliable. And you know what? If I want a snapshot from 15 minutes ago, I can just make one. Because I've got it all set up, I can just quickly do it anyway. Do you know our Hyperion snapshot strategy, our Elasticsearch snapshot strategy? I actually run 2 stores. My store that I use is right next to my server with a 10 gig backup, but I also back up to another server which is in Canada with a 2 gigabit internet that everybody else pulls from. So that's more of like my service. But I run my own. I run it for us. It's our mechanism for our recovery. We'll probably do it anyway. But yeah, you know what? Just knocking off a point across the board probably helps everybody. Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, we would still continue to have our snapshots regardless.
Yeah, but I don't think you provide everything. You only provide ChainDB and BlocksLock. You don't provide Elasticsearch, as far as I recall. And you don't
we
provide
don't.
Atomic Assets.
We have, like, Ross has his snapshots for his own recovery. We have 2 replicas of every data in ours. So if Elastics works as it should and something crashes, we have a double. But for some reason, that system doesn't always do as it should do.
Yeah.
We go a step. Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say we go a step further.
I
we have
provided
2
it as a
side by
specific.
side.
Yes, yeah, no, I get it. I provide a service, external service for everybody else to better recover their stuff. How many people provide the state history backup?
State history?
Because that thing, yeah,
Where they-
is that thing
I
big?
think state history is 15 people.
What?
Really?
Wait, we have it all in the.
Oh no, sorry, I
contribution sheet.
miscounted. I mixed it up with something else. It's 8 people.
8 people.
And how current are those state history backups? I'm just curious.
At
it has to
maximum 30 days, as far as I recall. I think state
It's-
history has 30-day retention.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I pull
fair.
that thing every month. It's such a pig.
It's not worth it for it. It's not even so much about the size of the file, storage. It's more about dedicating, what is that, 18, 19 terabytes of download at as fast as they can get, I mean, the same thing with the Elasticsearch backups was that I wouldn't offer it just because of that is a monstrous amount of traffic unless you're colo in a data center and just don't care, or you do like Nations. You go and download a Nations, you get good speed for about 5 minutes. and then it throttles you back to 10 megabit, which is cool because that's cool. Just let it grind, do its thing. Got to draw a line somewhere. But to just arbitrarily provide 20, 30, 40, what is that Elasticsearch up to now? 40 terabytes probably?
No, it's steady 2 terabytes.
Yeah.
Sorry to have inflated it a little too much.
And I must tell you that server that we've got is constantly being used. It's the only server that I've got that you can see a constant 2 gigabits of internet traffic going out of it.
Really? So, I mean, you literally, it nonstop has a stream.
Yeah.
Does that mean somebody's actively restoring from it?
Yeah. People, and the thing is, people use it for testing as well. You know, and you know what? If you were in the vicinity, for you to restore, if you've just got a gigabit internet, it's only going to take you a few days to restore. Okay? It's pretty quick.
I don't want nothing to do with that.
No, that's why I don't host it inside of our data center. I actually leased a server that's it's got like 112 terabytes of disks inside. I just put them into an array, and then I do daily incremental backups or incremental snapshots of that database that people pull from. And that's all it does. That sits there only for people recovering the Elasticsearch.
Right. So the incrementals save you the hassle of the.
Oh yeah, that's not the problem.
But when they do the restore, it's 32 terabytes.
But it's no problem for my service providing, right, because it doesn't affect our data center. It's on the outside. I wonder what OVH for Hanwha have to think about it. I mean, I pay for the 2 gigabit internet service for them, so it just runs.
Anyway, when you start, the point is when you start talking about downloading even a 2 gigabit, 10 gigabit, these 30 and 40 terabyte chunks, it is just a whole nother level of, you'd have to throw a lot of points at it for it to make it worth our while. Anybody that doesn't have throwaway.
Torrents,
I get half points.
We need to move everything to torrents.
I'm all about that. Like I say, a much more efficient use of it. But yeah, the way that it downloads.
We in Sweden should start a Wax Bay or something, right?
Yeah, Wax Bay and just torrent everything.
100 megabytes file split on megaupload.com.
Well, I mean, torrents. We've got a technology. We've got plenty of people that, I don't have a problem sharing 1 terabyte of somebody ripping a 30 terabyte download, but man. Anyway, just
I have a question though. Can I put 18 terabyte into IPFS?
I don't know what the maximum is. I can tell you this: you can put gigabytes onto the chain. Call up Crypto Lions, and they had a product that you could basically slice a file up into blocks and then reassemble it from the chain. We'll talk about destroying.
Fun for Hyperion providers.
Right, rip.
Hey, so you guys can hate on the Elasticsearch snapshot backup, but most people have used it.
It's awesome. I do think it's dangerous because whatever Ross has is what everybody else has. Same reason you don't want one chain state DB snapshot application. If his Hyperion doesn't, like Anders, go into the nesting levels and deserialization errors, whatever that he gets, he's going to infect.
Do you know what a really good idea is for you to just get going with? You could do the restoration and pull it all up, and then you can just do a backfill on it while you're actually providing the service, and that'll take you like 3 months, right?
Yeah.
So you can just go over it and do a rewrite. I've done that before.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
But the point is that you get up and running with something that is holistic running, and then you can actually just backfill it. Because 3 months is a long time, maybe even 4 months to do an entire index.
Yeah.
We like
But
that.
then again, we don't really need that many full Hyperions because most of the traffic on Hyperion is just recent data.
It is. However, I do see stuff from old data, and that's probably people doing their tax returns and stuff.
I was about to say, now's the time as much as anybody that I was thankful that Waxblock is, I don't know whose full Hyperion it's using, but it's able to return results from, the beginning of last year. Probably Sweden. Actually, it's probably Grey Mass.
I think it's round tripping until it finds results. There are multiple APIs configured on it, I think. Or last time I checked, it was at least for the RPC API calls and stuff. Yeah, it's important we keep 1, 2, 3 or more good full history providers, right? And access to full history for the products like those. That's important. Just need to find a clever way to do it. Proper incentive there to destroy hard drive disks.
You need faster drives than hard drives for most of the use cases.
Ah, shit.
You can get by. Even Wax. If you
No
just have the
ways.
data store, oh, absolutely. you can.
No ways. I don't believe you.
Absolutely.
I'm
you can.
spinning this. Spinning this.
Have you tried doing a
with
big query on spinning disks?
No ways.
Data store, yes. And now I will say this. I mean, it only takes I found about 100, 150 IOPS to keep a chain in sync.
Oh yeah, to store the data. Yeah.
It's not that. It's not. Yeah. But don't bother querying it.
I mean,
It'll take 10, 15 seconds for it to come back with a meaningful result.
I can tell you that I've stressed the limits on how low you can go and how fast it'll. I'll be honest with you, the queries aren't the problem. Like the get actions, whatever, right? That doesn't seem to be as bad. I mean, they'll take a little while, but they don't really time out. What is bad is the get health or the health check. And that was what had to be, he fixed it actually, ES7 to ES8. But the queries, man, FIO and their ETH Oracle was
that's
crushing.
all cool.
All those, I mean, their queries were so inefficient. They were hitting it with like 200,000 queries a minute or something astronomical. And it was able to keep up with it.
Yeah.
So it actually can. Now, Elasticsearch or
Depends on how many documents you have.
is all of the other stuff. It's running on NVMe's, and there is definitely, faster hardware available. But as for the raw storage, man, I've got 11 chains, low activity chains, writing to a single spinning disk hard drive.
Elasticsearch.
Yeah, data store. Elasticsearch data store.
Yeah. So just running and keeping up, right?
Right. And now, I mean,
Yeah. But then you query
11,
it, right?
11 chains versus what Wax is doing and storing in there.
Wax is a whole other. I've spent a significant amount of effort, even creating arrays, and it is definitely not fast enough. Not even nearly fast enough. Like it'll come back with the results, but it takes seconds. Nobody's going to wait seconds for the result. And I mean, I get upwards of like 100 requests will come in for Hyperion. They'll never run, but if it's an array of NVMe's, it's fine.
Right. I mean, you can't handle. I mean, to be honest with you, neither can your public API nodes run on potatoes. Neither can your, but it can handle it. And if you're doing like for our alien world queries, it works perfectly fine because you know who's fine waiting a couple of seconds for 10,000 results? okay, anyway, but it can run on potatoes, but not anything public facing. I just, nothing, just because it gets smashed. And people, if you use it effectively, it's fine. But it's people that don't know what they're doing, don't really care what they're doing, and they're just ripping the snot out of the, queries until the server says, no, you can't do it that way. You have to do it differently. I mean, Ross knows what I'm talking about. You got to use global sequencing and stuff like that, is that you can just query Hyperion, and it's not built to handle all types of queries without struggling. I'll be honest, neither is Atomic. Whatever Uplift does on their Atomic API queries crushes an Atomic server. Their joins and joins and joins in there, and they're just hitting REST request. But whatever it is on the amount of parameters and the amount of joins that it's stacking together, it just crushes the query. So it's not even about if the server's fast or right. A lot of it has to do with how they're piss poor structuring their queries. And you know who has to deal with that? The providers that are like, I can't contact them to tell them that it's wrong. And the server just ultimately has to cut off and say, nope, you can't do that because you too big of a query.
On a side note, I was speaking to a community member who was trying to spin up Atomic Assets node, and he was having all sorts of issues getting it to run.
Hyperion?
Dunk.